Boy, do I have a story for you. This is a BFRO report number 24266. It's a Class A sighting that happened here in Florida. It happened back in 2006 in November, that fall. It says here that at the edge of the Cypress Creek well field, a 7,400 acre conservation area, the water is piped to St. Petersburg, Florida, while the land is open to hikers, horses, bikes, flatlands, swamp, and creeks during the wet season. The nearest town is Land of Lakes. And this is what happened. It says, one day my son and his friend ran out of the woods next to the house, out of breath and scared. They said they had seen something big. I asked them what color, and my son said brown. I assumed it was a deer or a wild pig, as there are many around here. So I just kind of brushed it off. A month or so later, there was a show about Bigfoot on TV, and my son came to me and asked if there were any Bigfoots in Florida. I told him no, and that they stay up north. I didn't want to scare him out of the woods. I didn't tell him about the Florida skunk ape sightings. About 6 months later, my neighbor called me to ask if I or any of my family members have ever seen anything unusual in the woods. I was sitting in the car with my son waiting for school to open. My neighbor told me about the sighting he had and others had last fall. My son heard the conversation and started interrupting, telling me he saw it. My neighbor heard him over the phone and started giving me questions to ask. Height, very tall, taller than parents, is what he said. The color was reddish-brown. Was there a bad smell? He said yes. I asked him, what did the ears look like? Were they pointy, rounded, or what? He said he didn't see any ears, just his head and hair. My son and friend were playing in the woods when he saw something moving in undergrowth. He saw the back of something that looked like it was on all fours. As the back was large and tall, he decided to move closer to the house. He felt very nervous. As they were leaving, it seemed as if something was moving towards them. He also remembered sticks being thrown. He urged his friend to move on. Then at one point, he turned and looked and saw this large thing looking at him from behind a tree about 10 feet back. It was standing up and very big and tall. The tree was at least 2 feet in diameter, yet it had its arm wrapped around the tree. There were many vines and branches on the trunk, so he didn't get a good look at the body, but he insisted that it was standing on 2 feet, not hanging on to the trunk. He said the eyes spooked him. He started running, and his friend followed. That is when I saw them coming out of the woods, all out of breath. I asked him why he didn't tell me he saw a Bigfoot when he came out of the woods. Instead of saying something big, he said that he didn't know there were such a thing as Bigfoot. Then when he saw the show on TV, he asked me if they were in Florida, and I had said no. So he filed it away until my conversation with my neighbor reminded him of it. So the other witnesses in this were his son's friends, both approximately 10 to 11 years old, were playing in the sighted area. They liked to eat tangerines and play on vines, trees, and logs. The friend didn't see it, but he realized my son was upset. The other story was the neighbor was telling me about the sighting he and others in the area had at the same period of time. When my son overheard that, he told me about his. The time and conditions, it was afternoon, sunny, warm, swampy area with covered overhead by thick trees, vine growth, so it was dark underneath. The environment was swampy area, approximately 50 yards from home. Areas between home and the rest of the well field. Some palmettos are in the area. There are many wild tangerine trees left from when the land used to be used as an orange grove 50 to 70 years ago. Swamp has some dry areas with large puddles, creeks all over. So the interesting thing about this is the follow-up on this is basically the same story, but one thing that they noticed when the investigator went out, they noticed footprints that, they weren't defined enough to take, castings, because the mud, was sinking down and then like caving in on itself. And the same was happening when she was walking through as well. But the one thing that they did notice that was very odd was that there was the palmetto trees. I don't know if you all know, but in the palmetto trees, if you pull them up in the bottom, there's this part that's like, we call it the palm cabbage. And if you get lost in the wilderness, you can actually eat this. But it's extremely hard to get out of the ground, and you usually need a machete to do it. I've done it myself. I've had somebody show me it, and I tried, to get it out, which I did, but it took me at least an hour or so. So it's not easy to uproot. And these were pulled out of the ground, not macheted out, pulled out. And the insides where the cabbages was eaten and bitten off. So to do that, you have to have thumbs. And if it's a human, they're going to probably need a machete. So when I read that in this report, it just made me think that this kid saw something. So I just wanted to let you know about this report. I thought it was very interesting, even though it was in 2008. That area, I think, still supplies water to St. Petersburg, so it's probably still, pretty remote. I looked it up on a map, and it's near Cypress Creek, where there's been many, many sightings over the years, and people still go out there looking. So I just wanted to let you know about this. I thought it was really cool. I should be getting back out in the woods next week. It's very hot here in Florida. It's been like 98 degrees with a heat index of 111. So I have been hanging in the house this week. It's been way too hot. But I plan to get out next week and do some things, maybe some hiking or driving around in the truck again, or maybe even camping, but I don't know. It's pretty hot for that. But we'll see. But I appreciate you all, and I thank you for watching and listening to my videos, and I'll see you next week. Much love to you all.